All right, you loosey gooseys. 30 seconds and we're going. Let's wait for people to join in on the live stream if they want to. Give me a few seconds, then we're off. 30 seconds. Actually, make that about 2 to 3 minutes because I pushed the time to 8:50. So let's make that 2 to 3 minutes. All right. Let's do a little intro. This probably might be one of the last few sort of experimental spaces that I want to do. I feel like the content being shared here, while it is great, um, I would preferably want to reach a larger audience, which I'm not getting right now. I'm not sure if it's because of the weird shadow ban thing, or if I'm being forced into sort of like premium or something, or if there is very little interest, which I highly doubt in this day and age. Um, in these topics, very esoteric topics. There's a lot of knowledge being thrown around, some practical, some more abstract. But until I figure a better way to kind of convey this and share this with the world at large, I think I'm just going to do this one, and I'm going to drop some interesting things in this one. But I'll be honest with you guys. The few that do tune in, it's anywhere from, let's say, live. It's anywhere from 25, and like I think the general viewers generally tune in after like post live. I think it's anywhere up to 200 to 300, and to me, that's just not cutting it. Um, I feel like I feel like information that needs to be put out there will reach the specific people that it needs to reach, but I also feel like it functions in a sense as a virus of sorts where it catches a life of its own and kind of like flies into the you know what I mean, just kind of like flies into the world and kind of like exists on its own. I haven't been getting that from the universe, so that makes me think, um it makes me feel, I think it's more of a personal thing. It makes me feel like it makes me question whether it's even worth as a thing of value to keep this up, right? Because most people nowadays would regard me as a fool, as I've said before, because most people would nowadays would be thinking about, how do I monetize this, right? Oh, how do I make a YouTube channel? How do I get the most blah blah blah? That's never been my motivation. Um, I don't care about monetizing knowledge. I think it's a ridiculous notion. And I think people throughout the ages have done that, and they've received, I don't know, like goods and riches or whatever in their lives because of it. And yes, like my life could use upgrading as well. You know what I mean? Financially, materially, whatever. I'm not exactly born into wealth. The opposite of that, most likely, or was not. And I'm not exactly living in a thriving community where suffering does not exist and everyone's constantly content and satisfied with what they have and what they're given. But I'll tell you this: I feel like I'm approaching a stage in my life where I feel this need to isolate again, and I feel this need to detach, as I've been before. Before I even made this Twitter account, when I made this Twitter account, I explicitly did so because I wanted to express myself. Uh, Absolutely. So that means the imperfect or the perfect or whatever aspects of my psyche was there. And I yes, like I get this a lot. Yes, I hold a degree of let's say esoteric knowledge. Some people understand that more than others, right? Some people understand the degree or the quality of that knowledge more than others, as is normal, I guess, and expected. But the most profound thing about this whole journey has been um, kind of like understanding how little, how truly little it 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 matters to people, or how truly little we value knowledge or wisdom for the sake of knowledge and wisdom, so that it is not funneled through this strange filter of what can I gain from knowing this, right? And it's almost like, in the past, when teachers or tutors or so on and so forth, and great teachers, mind you, they would sit down, they would dictate the rules of engagement, right? They would dictate, well, I'm going to sit down and we're going to learn geometry, right? Let's say, or Aristotle or whoever. They would sit their students down and they would dictate the room. Now it's different. Now every student gets to choose whether they come into your room or whether they go into someone else's room. And the truth is, the student is not equipped with pre existing knowledge of which tutor um, gives truthful information, right? They cannot decipher, they cannot know. I'll tell you guys a funny story about that. What I'm trying to say is, I don't have time, the luxury of time, to make my door pretty. I don't have the luxury of that. I can't sit around painting the best door so that students can walk in and engage with me, right? Now, the people who do, good for them. But I'll tell you this, I personally feel like it's not worth it. I personally feel that if I went down that road, it would not bring value to me in the sense that I would like, because I value connection with humans, with persons, and not with a computer screen or some sort of, I sit in front of a camera and talk to you about whatever. It doesn't matter to me. So I don't have the luxury of time to make my room pretty. And teachers without pretty rooms nowadays, they don't really get much. They don't really get many people, too many people listening. So I'll tell you a funny thing. Where I'm from, there's a specific language or dialect. It's called Megrelian. There was this guy who was known in Russia who was from Megrelia. He went to Russia, and he could not make a living there. He did not speak the language, nothing, right? So he said, you know what? I'm going to open a school and I'm going to teach Megrelian language to these, Russian kids and Russian people who were interested. No one was interested, obviously. Who the hell wants to learn a language that only, 100,000 people speak in the middle of nowhere somewhere, right? In some silly mountainous region that you've never heard about. So he said, okay, this doesn't work. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go and ask the school principal. So he goes to the school principal. This is back in Soviet times. Obviously, there's a certain level of formality and strictness there, and this kind of sort of cold approach would not be regarded as ethical. There, it would be regarded as stepping over a certain boundary. So this guy goes to the principal and he's like, well, you know what, I have this language and I want to teach it here. And he says, I'm sorry, man, but no one's interested in learning this language. But you know what's really popular? You know what's really popular? Japanese. Everyone wants to learn Japanese. I don't know why, but kids are crazy about it, and their parents are crazy about it, right? So this guy goes and he opens up a classroom. McGrellians, if you did not know, are known for two things. They're known for their humor, and they're known for th- they're known for their resourcefulness. That's the good guy version for what they're known for. So this guy opens up a school and he's like, you know what? These guys don't even know the difference between Japanese and Megrelian. Why don't I teach Megrelian and I tell them that we're learning Japanese? So he puts out massive classes. Schools or specific rooms in these Soviet schools are erupted and engaged into the learning of the Japanese language. And he's a true professional of his arts. No one knows where he came from. A master of the Japanese language. So people are throwing money at the guy. Children are being put in his schools. Now he's a respected teacher and linguist, right? It's several years later when he gives out the language diplomas and everything, several years later, that they find out the truth. No one knows in 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 whatever part of Russia that was in, I forgot. No one knows Japanese or anything even remotely close to Japanese. They know this very niche, silly language taught by a liar of a man, right? So my question to you is this: how do you know if you're not being tricked into a similar thing? How do you know that someone's telling you one thing, right? Well, they're telling you, oh, I'm going to teach you all about reincarnation. And they teach you about something completely different. How do you judge? You're not a master of physiognomy. You're not a master of micro expressions. How do you judge? How do you know? You don't. And most people don't have the humbleness to admit this. Now, I'll tell you something else, okay? Imagine if you woke up today. Just forget everything I told you. Just imagine if you woke up today in a dark room. And there's only blackness. And you don't remember anything. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you've come from. You don't know where you've been. You have no idea about anything that's going on. What are the first few questions you would ask? You're in a dark room. You don't know where you are. You don't know how you got there. What do you ask? You ask obvious questions like, well, where am I? What is this place? How did I get here? Right? And all of those questions are inspired by your determination to not only survive but to decipher this incredibly threatening and mysterious environment you found yourself in. It's a predicament, right? Now, but then you kind of like go through the labyrinth of this dark room and you realize that there's other people there and they also don't know how they got there and they don't remember who they are or whatever, right? They have no clue, but they kind of look similar to you. They kind of look like you. And it's still a tiny bit different, but And those people are asking the same questions. We're like, well, how did we get here? Like, what is this place? What is this dark labyrinthian chamber that we found ourselves in? We're like walking around and trying to find our way. And then some people, astute observers, I would call them, they will come out and they will say, we are in this dark room because we are being punished for our sins. But none of them remembers what their sins are. If you ask them, well, what is this? They don't. I don't know. But if we're here, probably that's because why. And then some other people, the rationalists, the sensationalists, or the practicalists, or of this society that lives within this labyrinthine dark dungeon room, they will say, this is all random. It is the pinnacle of absurdity. Our existence is nothing but a speck of dust in the hourglass of time, right? And then some people will say, we are in total chaos and nothing matters. Nothing here matters. Nothing we do here. Murder doesn't matter. Love doesn't matter. Bearing children doesn't matter. Caring doesn't matter. Not caring doesn't matter. It's completely absurd. Some people, most of them afraid, will begin to believe some of these people who are the quote unquote astute observers of the community, right? They will start to believe them out of fear, out of their innate desire and fear of facing the grandest unknown in their existence. And the grandest unknown of their existence is the fact that they don't know. They don't know. They have no clue, right? So if you're in a dark room, a dark labyrinthian room, and people are telling you different versions of why you're here and where you came from and yada yada, and you're very fearful, anything seems like a better option than nothing, right? Anything seems like a better option than we don't know. Because we don't know opens the gateway and opens the floodgates to the terrifying notion that there are some things in your life that you cannot possibly explain. There are irrational elements to your existence that are beyond your current comprehension. But there are some people in this room, maybe a child, maybe a few children who are born, who have dreams, who have vision dreams. And through these vision dreams, they tell you, they tell their parents, mother, father, I see a place. I see a place that's nothing like the dark room. I see a place that's beyond the dark room. It's it's possibly an image or an after image of what the dark room could be in the future. And it's not that they see this place isolated from themselves somewhere distant. No, 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 no. They see this place as an integral part of their memory. They see this place as somewhere they've been before, and they've just forgotten that they've been there, right? And now what happens to these children, right? What happens to these visions? They're prosecuted. They're prosecuted and executed, and there's a whole witch hunt against this idea, because this idea again throws open the floodgates of the notion of that perhaps there's something in this world that we don't know. Science, in all its might and glory, will study the phenomena that is within this dark room. And keep in mind, this dark room, it's an allegory, right? It's symbolic for everything, our existence on this earth, your own existence in your own subconscious mind, right? It's allegorical. And you have to understand that most people in our world, 98% of the people in our world, to this day, live in this very dark room. This is where they dwell. That is their shelter place. Because the comfort of the dark room, what people would call the matrix or whatever, the comfort of it is that it is almost offensively familiar. Even the brutality, even the darkness, even the limitation, the limiting aspect, the prison aspect of not knowing, it is incredibly familiar. And the familiar, or whatever is familiar to the mind, is its weakness. Because the mind uses that which is familiar as primary reference to, well, balance itself, to balance its hormones, to balance its dopamine release. Everything is comparative to the mind. So if you're in a dark room and I'm torturing you every day, the one day I don't torture you, your mind will release pleasure into you. It will ingest pleasure into you, inject, or whatever the word is, right? Why? I'm still sitting in a dark room being tormented by a captor who probably hates me or hates my guts. Yet the body and the mind work in this manner. Everything is comparative. So a good day in hell, right, is better than a bad day in hell. But again, let's go back to the children. Let's go back to the children who who have these visions. And some of these children, they are chosen, and they are also hated because they are chosen. And they're chosen to be the deliverers of certain wisdoms or knowledge. Like, for example, some of these children decipher the geometry of the world. They don't just see the dark room, they see its form, they see its shape. They don't just see peoples and their bodies. They can read into these bodies, the geometry of them, the symbolism behind them. What is the geometry of the place we are in teaching us? Some of them have a spark within them, a spark of intuition, or spark of conscience, or a spark of desire or ambition that they cannot possibly explain. They don't know where it came from, it's just there. There's a curiosity to some of them. And they, regardless of what the world might teach them about the dark room or whatever, they will go and they will pursue these ambitions or desires, almost like they were sent here to enact those ambitions and desires. And some more of these children, when they grow up and when they, you know, do enact a portion of these desires or whatever, some of these children, they will they will pass this stage in life, the stage of fearlessness. And as they have lived in a dark hole that is telling them to be afraid of anything they cannot know, or anything they cannot expect, or anything they cannot explain, the element of fear dissipates from their lives. And as the element of fear dissipates, now the unknown can reach out to them. The mind and the eyes within the void and from beyond the void can now speak to them, because they know that their presence will not destroy them. You understand what I'm telling you? Their presence, they know that their presence will not destroy the psyche of the soul that has upgraded from a state of fear into a state of utter fearlessness. And they will speak to them in different ways. They will speak to them with caution. They won't appear in front of them directly. They will speak to them in caution. They will speak to children as one would speak to children. They would speak to adults as one would speak to adults. They will present themselves as so, and they will talk to them about the four divine directors of life. They will give them a compass. And before I continue, let me tell you this. If you listen to a teacher, right, and they're in a pretty room and everything's very fancy, if you listen to a teacher, if they don't know what this world is to a T, if they do not know the meaning of your existence and mine, if they do not know this knowledge, then they live in fear. Because if they did not live in fear, they would have been granted this knowledge. 100%, unequivocally true. So when I meet a person and they are spiritually inclined with a healthy ego, I will always ask them, tell me the meaning of life. And they will answer, well, I think it's this and this and this. Do you know how funny it is to someone like me and to others like myself? Do you know how funny it is to see most of these charlatans parading around in the spiritual fields? Do you know how funny it is to me knowing that they are wrong and knowing that they know that they are wrong, yet they still keep it up? It's hilarious. It's amusing to the highest degree. When you know what a good burger tastes like, right? When someone feeds you their mother's burger and it tastes like crap, you still have to nod your head. Oh, what a great burger, But you know it tastes like crap because you know what a good burger tastes like. That's how it feels, right? Everything feels convoluted, useless, like useless garbage. Now, what this world is, let's get back to that. These people who pass from a state of fear into a state of fearlessness, they are granted a compass. I can share this compass with you because these people are also granted approval to share this compass because this compass might help others achieve the wisdom or achieve the knowledge that they have been blessed with. And we'll talk about the technicality as how that knowledge is transferred later on. But the compass of life consists of four holy directions. In the human mind or in the human experience, how that manifests is as desire, ambition, intuition, and conscience. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this, but understand this: every human being is born with a prerequisite boundary. This boundary keeps you within the confines of your potential destinies. And you can affect this world from beyond your starting point however you wish. But there's a catch to it. Give me a moment, sorry. All right. Sorry about that. A little bit of a fever. Um, there's a catch to it, and this catch goes like this. If it's wrong to steal, but your intuition is telling you that it's the right thing to do, what the fuck would you do? What would you do? Would you ignore your intuition? Would you ignore the law, young man? Would you ignore the law, the man-made law everyone's telling you to keep following? Would you ignore that? Hmm? You have the guts to follow your intuition. What if society tells you something's wrong, but your conscience is telling you that it's not wrong? For you, it is not. Would you listen to society? Would you conform to the man-made metrics of ethics and order? Or would you follow your own conscience? If society tells you there's nothing wrong with something, but your conscience is telling you this is a terrible thing to do, don't do this. What would you do? What would you listen to? Well, I'll tell you what the mystic listens to. The mystic only listens to the inner world, to the inner voice. He cares very little for the patheticisms of the human society because the human society exists in a state of flux. They have no clue where they are. They have no clue who they are. They have no clue how they got here, yet they understand morality to its highest form. Ridiculous. If you ask me, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, right? Now, back to the challenge. If your intuition is telling you to do something, but your conscience is telling you not to do it, then all you're experiencing is a compass. That's not confusion. That doesn't need therapy. It's telling you, your intuition is telling you, go this way, and your conscience is telling you, go get that thing, but do it in a different manner. Something that aligns with your soul's purpose. There are people in this world who can get away with more. I'll be honest with you. There are people in this world who can get away with more because they need to get away with more to teach you what you have to learn. If I don't steal the apple today, I cannot teach you in the future that it's bad to steal apples. But if you cut my hand off every time I steal an apple, I'm going to stop stealing apples and you're going to stop having a tutor. You're going to stop having a teacher. So understand that different souls are born into this realm with individual moralities. I know it's hard to imagine for a human society who looks for order and equity and equality and everything, but that's the truth. Some of us can get away with more in certain fields where others can't. And some of us are harshly punished for those same things that other people get away with. You've seen it happen all the time. So now the question is why? I'll tell you what. When you have a purpose to fulfill in this life, you are given a very personal compass. When you have a desire and you follow that desire, what are the other things in this compass that tell you, well, you're doing great following this desire, but if your conscience on the way is telling you, you know what, to reach your desire, don't split this person's skull open. Is it telling you not to pursue your desire anymore? No, it's not. It's telling you don't pursue it in this manner. If your intuition is telling you, yes, buy a car, but don't buy this car. But if your logical mind is thinking, well, why shouldn't I buy this car? It's a great deal. They're giving me a 20% discount, and the owner seems like a nice person. Why shouldn't I buy this car? And your intuition is your compass at work. It's telling you, don't buy this goddamn car. Even though your desire is telling you, I want to buy a car. Why shouldn't I? So now you're in a state of you're torn, right? You're in a state of fragmentation. Not true. You just need to realign with yourselves. You need to understand. You need to learn how to talk the language of divinity. And that's how divinity talks to you through intuition, through conscience, through your desires and your ambitions that you cannot explain. I've always wanted to be an actress, so that's why. Because why did you always want to be an actress? Did someone put that idea in your head, or is it something that spawned out of the nothing? Nothing happens out of nothing, right? So you need to understand when you have a deep innate ego towards something, right? Towards a goal or purpose or whatever, and you pursue it, you use these other parts of the compass to understand how you should pursue it. If you can't see the full picture, your intuition will engage and will tell you, don't do this. And the more you listen to it, the more it will engage. If you don't know if doing something is wrong or right, listen to your conscience. Don't listen to your neighbor. Don't listen to your neighbor's dog. Don't listen to the judge. Don't listen to a lawyer. Don't listen to the president of your country. Don't listen to anyone. Listen to your conscience. And then some people will ask me, some people who don't understand how conscience works. They'll ask me, well, what about serial killers? They don't have a conscience. Do they, or don't they? It's very easy to say that people don't have a conscience, but you don't know, and that scares you. So you have to chalk it up to, oh, they don't have a conscience, yada yada. They don't feel any emotions. Their brain is malfunctioning. Anyone in the history of humankind who has been caught for any crime has a conscience. Do you know how I know that? It's because you cannot be caught if you don't want to be caught. If you do not self inflict the karma out of guilt, you cannot be caught. So those who are in prison are the good ones. Those who we have imprisoned and tormented, who have done sinful things and felt guilt for them, self inflicted the experience of the prison cell. They have self inflicted the prison cell. And we, if you ask us, those are the terrible people of our society. No, they're not. No, they're not. You know how much mental gymnastics and hubris is played out in the human mind to avoid feeling guilt or directly feeling guilt to engage karma? Look at the elites. Why are they not in the prison cells? You don't think they don't feel guilty? But they go through the mental gymnastics and the ritualist behavior and the art of forgetfulness to avoid feeling the guilt. Why is alcohol and drug? Why are alcohol and drugs so prevalent in low vibration societies and communities? Why? Ask yourself that. Because what is the gift granted by alcohol? The gift of forgetfulness. Oh, you did terrible things. Here's, have a few beers, you'll forget all about it. No problem. You won't remember a single fucking thing tomorrow. Or if you do remember, you'll remember just, bits and pieces of it. So understand that we cannot run from the dark room because we've created the dark room. The reason you're even here on this plane in your amnesiac state where you've forgotten everything you've ever known is self inflicted out of guilt and shame. This is why the, every religion says we're all sinners here. And it's true because we are in the prison realm. And you'll make of the prison realm what you wish. Look at Scandinavia. Their prisons are very different. But look at Cuba or Mexico. Their prisons are a living hell. So life in general is practically about how you treat yourself, how you treat the worst of mankind, because you are the worst of soul kind. That is the truth. That is the dark truth that none of these spiritualist masters or whatever want to tell you. We have been bad children, and that's why we're here. Not because we've been sent here by someone of higher authority by us. No, no, no. They love us. They want to see us do well because we did not have the guts to stand before them in the state at which we were. It's a state of being incomplete, imperfect, a lying, thieving, conniving piece of shit that has not the bravery to work through their own darkness. That's why we're here. That is the price of divinity. The price of divinity is everything. Everything you've ever known, everything you've ever wanted, everything, you must risk it. You must suffer your destiny. And that vision that some of us have of the other place, from which we came from, we are not worthy of that place. None of us. If we were worthy of that place, we would be there. But there are forces, obviously, who would like to see us there. But there are also forces who would not like to see us there. This is also something mystics and spiritualists won't tell you about. Oh, no, 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 no. They want to keep you in the dark. They don't want you to know about all the nasty, fearful shit that's out there in the world. But this, my friends, is the age of Aquarius. And in the age of Aquarius, all must be told to everyone unequivocally. I believe in the readiness of man, even though man has not showed me its readiness at all, except for a very select few. And the world is ridden with these dogmatic idiots who masquerade as teachers of higher spiritual states. They have no clue what they're talking about. They have no idea where they are. They're just afraid. They're so afraid that they want to create this illusion of this world they want to live in. I'm not afraid. I might not be the most stand up human being. I might not be the wisest or the smartest or not impulsive or whatever. But one thing that I'm not is I'm not afraid because I choose not to be afraid, right? I've earned the right to be not afraid. And that's why I can ask these questions. And that's why I can tell you we are at the precipice. The dark room is nothing but a portal. It is nothing but a portal in which everyone has forgotten, to which that everyone has forgotten the key. And they're looking oh, where's the key? Oh, maybe we can find the key. But the key is within yourself. The key is stepping into a state of fearlessness to be given more context. You understand what I'm saying? In the kingdom of the blind, the one eyed man is king. That's what it means. When you open that other eye, the celestial eye, you unlock the celestial I, as in your true self. And that's when you know, that's when you start to regard other humans, other souls as children. And you stop hating them and you start pitying them. But it doesn't matter because you will still say, right, what you're doing is evil, what you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is this and that, not by my metrics, but by objective metrics of suffering and pain. You understand? We've been given very objective metrics about what those things are. And again, a smartass would tell me, well, you know what, Jack? Some people are masochists or sadists, and they like suffering. They like suffering to a certain extent, my fuzzy chocolate friend. Beyond that extent, suffering manifests as plain old suffering to them as well. Some things in our world are black and white, and yes, they are also paradoxical. Those two things can happen at the same time. But if you're asking the question of who you are and why you're here, why are you listening to me yap about these topics right now? Shouldn't you be doing something else that's more fun and productive? That's like more practical, and it'll you know lighten up your day and whatever. I will tell you this: you are here to not know. That's why you're here. You are here to experience not knowing. And knowing that you are here to experience not knowing is the key out of the labyrinth. If you can live in acceptance with the idea of not knowing, paradoxically, you will start to know things. That's how it works, baby. That's how it works. But most people don't want to hear this. It's too much for their little pea sized brains. It terrifies them. It scares them off. They don't want to hear it. They don't want anything to do with it. They'll say, "Oh, you're crazy. You can't possibly know those things." I'm going to sit here in my bubble of unknowing and I'm going to feel comfortable. If you want to understand the occult, esoteric studies, so on and so forth, I beg of you, stop listening to the people who don't know the meaning of life. And if you don't know the meaning of life, how can you possibly be a judge about who knows the meaning of life? That is when your conscious, your intuition, your ambition, and your desire comes in. That is where your personal compass of morality works. When I was younger, I would walk into a room and people would tell me, "This man is a great man. He knows so much. He's this and that." And I wouldn't like him. I wouldn't like him at all. And most people would conform to the idea. Most people would say, "Oh, what a wonderful man. I'm probably just not understanding him." That's a disservice to who you are. And I wouldn't associate with them. And if I did, if I ever did, I would highly regret it. Highly, highly, highly regret it. To understand the meaning of life. And the only reason I'm saying this now, you guys, is because I'm going to stop having these spaces. They're a luxury I cannot afford. I realize that I just don't have the time to push myself into this crazy realm of social media. But I will tell you this, and I've said this before, and you can read in some of my stuff. The meaning of life is very simple at its core. And if you want to find out what it is, you have to start asking the questions about the functions of life, the function of this world. So, for example, what is the function of water, right? Well, the function of water is that you drink it and then you satiate your thirst, right? And then you can live on. That's the function of water. But water can have other functions, right? You can go higher and you can ask, well, what is the function of time itself? And we've already spoken about this in our past sessions where we said the function of time is so that everything doesn't happen at the same time. Okay, then let's talk about that. What is the function of the fact that everything does not need to happen at the same time? Oh, we have delay between action and reaction. What is the function between action and reaction being delayed? Contemplation. A mind that works on a lower frequency needs time in order to contemplate the result from action to reaction, right? Why? What is the function of this whole thing? Why would anyone set up a world or a realm or a three-dimensional plane that would host this sort of very specific niche, a very specific scenario or narrative where these stories are able to unfold in linear ways, only in one direction? You can't go back in the past. You can only experience the unavoidable future and the regrettable past, right? Why is this? What is the function of this? The function of this is to understand the value and the significance of our choices. To understand the value and significance of our choices, what is the function of that? What could be the function of that? Well, perhaps you're being prepared for something. Perhaps you're being prepared to make more choices, more definitive choices, choices that in in your in your youth you did not know the value of and did not have the understanding of the ripple effect that it would cast, because you had no body on which to 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 inflict the pain of your bad decisions or negative decisions upon, but now you do. So if the action and reaction happened at the same time with no pain in between or no contemplation in between, that would just be a dot, a moment in time, and that's it. What lesson is there to be learned from that? Nothing. So then you and I and everyone else here, we are here to experience life with the promise of death at the end. There's no avoiding it. What is the function of that? We live in a world that is at initial look designed to facilitate faith. In a world where you know everything, where you have the proof of God, you know what's going on in the world, you know the meaning of life, the notion, the sentiment of faith cannot exist. So faith does not exist in the higher realms. Faith can only exist here on the lower realms. Faith in something more, something beyond creation, beyond the dark room. That is the power of faith. So when you live in a world that is seemingly designed by an intelligent mind in the hand of God to facilitate a very distinct emotion or state of mind that is faithfulness, that goes against all the primal programming of the animalist mind, of the animalistic mind, of the lizard brain, right? That just does not understand it on a logical scale. It does not understand it. When you live in faith, other people will not understand how you move in this world. Other people will see you as kooky or crazy or whatever when you don't interact, when you don't want to interact with certain people, you don't want to go through certain rooms, you don't want to, you know, take certain risk, and you want to take certain others. They'll see you as crazy. They'll see you as nuts because you're not moving in any orderly or disciplined manner, at least from their outlook. You're moving. You're 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 going against reality for them. But in truth, you're not going against reality. You're going through it. That is the meaning of life: to go through the matrix, to not succumb to its laws, because if you do succumb to its laws, then you're forced into a state of fear. You're forced into a state of forgetfulness, more and more and more. You're diving deeper into it. You're diving deeper into social media. You're diving deeper into, with the television. You're diving into a matrix within the matrix, right? That's where you are. And instead of diving within, you're outwardly diving into a mirror that's reflecting itself infinitely, endlessly, because the world we live in is a fractal world. You know what a fractal is? It's a geometrical figure that all it does is it copies and reflects itself infinitely, but it's still the same figure. So when we say you live in a holographic world, that's what we mean. And there are different entities around this holographic world that have their own little interest in your life. They have a keen interest in keeping you in this state, because guess what? You are a divine being, and they have no sustenance of their own. You are in a three-dimensional realm, and you still have a divine channel that is directly connected to your higher self. That is sustenance, my friend. That is why every alien race that has ever existed refers to human beings as, guess what? Vessels. 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 Right? Vessels who house the soul within the body, and the emotions enacted through the body is what sustains them. So yes, there are bad. There is evil, in a sense, in a three-dimensional sense that exists in this world. Of course, even this evil, by design, ultimately is there to help us enact our ascendance and our ascension from this realm to the next, but it doesn't make them less evil when they're staying next to you. This is the ridiculous notion most people in the spiritual fields do not want to admit. All you have to do is be beyond them, be beyond their the emotions that they feed on, the guilt, the sinful pleasures, the fear, so on and so forth. So it's not about what you do. It's not about, oh, I want to, have sex with 50 people. And all of these people will come out and tell you, oh my God, it's such a bad thing. Don't do that. It has this and that implication and yada. They don't know shit. They don't know two shits about what they're talking about. They just understand that someone told them that this is a high risk behavior to engage in. If you go fearlessly into this world, nothing can touch you. If you go with faith, if you listen to your intuition, your conscience, and if you pursue your desires and your ambitions while listening to your intuition and conscience, nothing can harm you. But those who are led astray, everything can harm them because they live in fear. And they live in fear. When they live in fear, all they give you is fear. All they can give you is fear. Oh, fear God. Oh, fear this, fear that. Don't do that. Oh, don't do that on a 4 day. Don't do that on a 15 day. All they can give you is fear. But those who are truly initiated, they will never give you fear. And I'll tell you what, the people who think they're doing you a favor by telling you, oh, I spoke about this in the past too. Let's talk about numerology, okay? Because numerology has been a very toxic field in this realm. And they'll say, "Oh, don't do this on a 7 day. Oh, it's a 7 day today. Don't do this." Ridiculous! You absolute moron! You don't even understand how that works, right? When you input a belief system into the matrix will reshape itself around that belief system. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Like, really think about what I'm telling you right now. When you have I don't know, like a gaming console. The disc you insert into the gaming console, that's the game is going to play. That's how the holographic matrix works. So when you take a belief system like astrology or astronomy or science or whatever, when you inject that belief system within your world, meaning that when you truly believe that that is how it is, that is how it's going to be. So every cult is this: they give you a belief system and they will discipline you brutally to follow that exact system. Why is new thought punished in any cult like system? Because it does not provide sustenance to the master of that cult. And the master of that cult is the being beyond the three-dimensional realm that feeds on this energy and gives something in return. That's it. That's it. So, understanding your own divinity, that is the meaning of your divinity. that whatever you input into your life will come about, will manifest into your life. But the problem is, you are here, you're here stuck with all of us crazies, all of us heebie jeebie crazy people. You're just stuck with us. And you must surrender yourself to suggestion. You must surrender yourself to the idea that other people can talk things into your mind. They can give you doubts and fears, and they can play charades and theatrics in your life and tell you, oh, this is possible, and that is not possible. Oh, no, 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 no. A part of understanding where you are, you need to understand that while others may affect you, it's still you who pulls the trigger. And it's up to you, only to you, what you input into your life, what belief systems you input into your life. This is the price of divinity. To give up everything. You want to be in control of your experience here, then give up everything that here is. The fear, the pleasure, the anxiety, the insecurity, the darkness, the temptation, the nerves, the everyday struggles, everything. Everything is the price. And only then you'll be able to unlock the sacred past and really experience it for yourself without someone else like me telling you to really experience this world. Why am I so filled with fervor when I talk about this? Because I want others to see it. I want others to feel it. To feel that place and to understand how superior it is to this one. This plane, this plane is the graveyard of our unconscious desires. That's what this plane is. It's a graveyard. It's not a prison. Every human soul that lives collectively on this earth manifests, according to our belief systems, that which happens on this planet. So if you watch the news and if you just look around and see that which is manifested, you will see exactly what we are manifesting and where our consciousness is, to what level, what degree. And then you'll understand that most of it is just selfish, is so greedy, and it's so difficult to not hate, to have hatred for these people who have been given the ability to create anything they've ever wanted, and what they've created is this. Wow. Imagine what the rest of the universe thinks of us, right? Like really imagine what the rest thinks of us, the rest of the universe. They were given the greatest gift one could receive to create whatever they want out of nothing, out of the primordial pool of creation, where every reality is open to you, everything is possible. And this is what you create, a world of war and famine and darkness and shitting and pissing on the streets. This is your divine expression. And that's what should drive you to perfect yourself. That's what should drive you to step up, right? Because you also have a say in this world. Not say in a sense of, oh, cast your votes. Who will it be? Will it be Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? You're picking between two degenerates. I choose life at its greatest, at its highest potential. That's what I choose. And I will live each and every single day according to that beautiful vision that I were granted, right? And I will do so because I believe in beauty. I don't believe in ugliness. I don't. I believe in beauty. And if I can afford to live my life relatively unfazed by the world, which is very difficult even for me, and align myself with the creation of beauty, then perhaps we can make some sort of change so that everyone can start having that dream. Not just the few of us, not the 2% or the 3. Right now, Earth is a crazy planet for a reason. It's a planet of pain, right? It's a planet of pain, especially for those who come here to awaken. And only a few will stay here to help awaken others. Most people will lose their hope. Most people who are Christ-like or whatever in their spiritual advancement, right? They will leave. They won't stay because they don't believe in the readiness of man. So once they've awakened in this realm, they realize, oh my God, everyone's asleep. But it's not like they're asleep and they don't know about it. They're asleep because they want to be asleep. They're asleep because they want to stay in the dark room. They're asleep because they want to have this sort of world because they have a lot of things to hide from one another and a lot more to hide from themselves. That's why, because we live in a world where hidden things can't even exist. In the next realm, hidden things cannot exist. You're an amazing thing, and I might botch this, but I'm still going to tell you guys. An amazing, very undervalued and underrated part of um, Tolkien's work before the Lord of the Rings is the Silmarillion. And in the Silmarillion, there's this moment, or I think it's from some other book. I don't remember correctly, where the big bad guy, right, the big bad of the book. I believe it's I don't remember if it's Sauron or Morgoth. They stand in front of the creator of all, right? The creator of all the universe, of the Lord of the Rings, right? Eru Iluvatar, and they have been imprisoned prior to this meeting. They have been imprisoned for eternity for their sins against the world, right? And as they stand before Eru Iluvatar, the god of this realm, right? They lie. They lie to him. They say, I feel guilty and remorseful about what I did, and I want to apologize and be released from my bounds. And you know what? How Tolkien says it. The god of his realm does not even know what a lie is. He does not even understand it. Lies to him do not exist because in his realm nothing is hidden. So because of this, not because he is gullible, not because he is a naive, but because he cannot accept creation for any less than its purity. He says he forgives him. He quote unquote believes the lie and he forgives him and he unleashes him upon the world and the evil dark forces back into the world causing evil, and then the same God sends his same, angelic forces to go and deal with him, right? So you have to understand the realms we're talking about, it's not like they're gate kept from us. We are gate kept from it on our own, by our own volition, because we want to lie. We want to hide things. We want to blur things through bureaucracy and mental gymnastics and so on and so forth. We want to be in this state because we don't want to directly face the consequences of our actions. We want to delay the action from the reaction because we're idiots. We're little souls. We don't understand the implications of cleanliness and purity. Not yet, but we're trying. So once you get to a state of fearlessness, only then can you be exposed even to the greater truths. And then you'll have a choice. Then you'll have a very incredible choice. And that choice is, do you wish to move on, or do you wish to continue your cycle of suffering, so to speak, and help others achieve what you've achieved? And that's a choice everyone in this world has to make at the end of it. But before you even get there, first you have to achieve effort. That's all it takes. It doesn't you don't have to be a perfect person. You can't possibly be a perfect person in this world. But if you align with your desires and your ambitions and your intuition and your conscience, you might be useful. Stop trying to be a good person, start trying to be a useful person. That's the difference. That's the differential. You could be a wonderful person and fail every reincarnation mission you've ever been given. This terrifies people. This terrifies them because all they want to say at the end of the day is, I didn't harm anyone. I was a wonderful person. And then they'll ask, wherever, they need to be asked. Well, yeah, sure, you were a nice person. You didn't harm anyone, but did you did you did you live up to your full potential? Did you really? Did you really try to do that? Did you do as much as you possibly could have done? Or were you just kind of in there avoiding trouble and just being a good gal and, or a good guy? You kind of like, phased out and flowed through life and, whatever. Who were you? You think you're any better than the people who are in prison right now paying for their guilty crimes? No, you're not. You just have not been visited by the demon of temptation yet because you've been so cowardly that you haven't even called or conjured up the demon of temptation yet in your life. You haven't even called upon the darkness to test you. Yeah, it's a different type of morality, isn't it? So, excuse me, if I can go into a prison and shake one's hand, I can hug them, I can share our common humanity with them. I know that their life has been full of darkness and temptation and distress. And I'm sorry I don't regard anyone on, I don't know, if I go out on a California beach where the sun is shining all the time and life is wonderful. I'm sorry if I don't regard them as, you know, little less than monsters because I do. I understand that monstrous things usually come from people who you would expect not to be monstrous, right? Um, because I understand some people are tested more than others. Some people have more temptation to deal with others because you were born on a sunny beach somewhere where trouble is very scarce, right? It doesn't mean you're any good or better or person than someone who's been born in a life of slavery for a Mexican cartel, who's had to choke and kill and rape and pillage to survive. Do you know? Are you 100% sure you would have not done the same? Perhaps you, in your current mind, in your own current consciousness, you would not have done it. But let us remove the mental and the intellectual and the moral resource that you have now been granted through your years of comfort. Let us remove all that. Let us remove your perspective. Let us remove your luxury, and let's make you very small. Let's make you very, very small and very afraid and very hungry with calluses on your feet and chronic disease. Let's make you like that. What would you do? Would you go in faith? Would you go in faith and die? Or would you survive? Think on that.